We're about to start the Landing More interviews by Dave Alger. Let me just give a quick intro to him. Dave has landed a number of interviews at companies of all sizes and has successfully completed multiple interview loops at Microsoft. Learn from someone who's been there at entry level, and over to him. Give it up.
Thank you. All right. So, I'm Dave Alger. I wanted to start by just telling you about when I was 5 years old. So this was the first school picture day. I'm wearing my favorite soccer shirt. I don't know why it was my favorite. I didn't play soccer. I really liked that shirt. Went to school, and that was when we started doing things like with clay and building, I think we were building ashtrays. We were building stuff in school with clay and drawing and painting and finger painting, and I just fell in love with art. So I was going to be an artist, and then as soon as I saw the first Pixar movie, I was going to go work at Pixar as an artist. That was my life, as a kid, but that's not really how it panned out. When I got to college, I was like, man, this internet thing's not going to go away, and artists don't, there's only one open position for artists. So I need to eat, and I landed in this state called the experience paradox. I don't think anyone here has that. I was talking to my coworker earlier. I said, I bet we could go up to anyone here at random and hire them, and they would be great on our team. Because, we do a lot of React and JavaScript, and who would be here during a pandemic unless you're the kind of person that could get the job done? And I was like, man, that's an interesting way to find people. But the way that people are hired and companies go out and find people and hire them, it's very well established. And it's actually a little frustrating because we already have all the tools just 1 foot away. If anyone at Microsoft is watching online or that works on the LinkedIn is so close to adding on verification and all of the things that have to go into hiring a candidate. And there might be a point in our lifetime where resumes are no longer a thing. That would be kind of cool, actually. But for right now, resumes are the thing, and there's 2 kinds of resumes, and that's what I want to talk about. But first, here's a couple stats, and I have a bunch, but I'm not going to just throw a bunch of stats at you, but these first 2 are pretty interesting. For every big corporate job, like at Microsoft or Adobe, 250 applicants, 250 people apply, and 5 are invited in for an interview. And in the last talk, we saw that, where he said, I mailed out, or I applied 100 and something times, and I got 2 interviews and no job offers. And which is an important point to make right here up front. A resume does not get you a job no matter how great your resume is. All it can do is get you an interview. That's its only job, is to get you an interview. And so how do you do that when the second stat, the average time a resume is viewed by a person is 6 seconds. And that's average. So think of if someone puts out a great resume and the whole thing gets read, that means a whole bunch just didn't get looked at and got tossed. At 6 seconds per resume, what on earth can you do in a resume that's going to get you an interview in 6 seconds? Well, that's why I put together this talk of landing more interviews, because I went from a state where I didn't have experience, so how am I going to get experience in order to get a job, because jobs take experience, that whole thing. I'm way beyond that now. Microsoft gave me 6 really good years of experience, and but that was before GitHub was a thing. So I tell my friends now that are like really struggling, because I offer help with people on LinkedIn if they message me. I try and help them as much as I can to get a job. You already have a job at Facebook. Like, you could actually work on React right now. React is open source. You can contribute to it. You can change the code. So like, if I didn't have a job somewhere else, I'd be doing that. I'd be joining an open source project that I care about and making changes. But I want to focus on the word remarkable here. So what is exactly a remarkable resume? I really like the definition that Seth Godin gave. So Seth Godin wrote a book called The Purple Cow. It's pretty famous. Maybe some of you have read it. And he says something remarkable is something worth talking about. So you're on a road trip and you see some cows or something off to the side of the road. No one, just drive by. No one says anything, except for me. I always say, "Look, kids, a flock of cows." They're like, "Herd of cows, Dad?" "Of course I've heard of cows. There's a flock over there." But if you were to see like a purple cow, like, there would be a traffic jam. Everyone just stop the freeway and get out of their car and start taking pictures and posting on Instagram, like, right? People would talk about it. That's remarkable. So can a resume really be remarkable? Well, Josh Como in France saw my resume and said it was super cool, which is awesome because he just put out an awesome CSS class, which I would check out if that's something you need to learn more about. I got a rad from Brissin. This is a rad resume. You should look at it. And then, I don't know, give your resume a belly rub. What's that about? These are all on Twitter. Clever. You get the point. Oh, that one. I just noticed my URL to my resume and heart cat emoji. So I think that's good. And Dave Smith, and you might know him from Soft Skills Engineering, and he's one of the main hosts of this conference. But the point of this is, yes, you can make a resume that people actually remark about and tweet on. Last time I looked up my resume on Twitter, it had 96 or something hits. It's like, what on earth could this resume be? I hope you're curious, because I'm going to show you here soon. And this resume has indeed got me interviews. So there was a time where I actually was kind of in between jobs, and it was like, oh my gosh, I got to do something. And people would reach out and say, hey, can I just hire you as a contractor to do this? Because your resume, like, a lot of people will mention my resume before, and offer me a job. I'm like, wait, resumes can't get you a job. Remember, they just get you an interview. So I put it out on davealger.info. At the time, they were trying to give these URLs away for like $2 or something. And I kept it there because now there's links all over for it. And you notice at the beginning, I had davealger.info/draw. I do all kinds of experiments, JavaScript experiments that show off my skills, and they're just appended to my resume. So right away, they're like, well, where is this draw thing from? And they go back and, oh, wow, that's kind of cool. So let's take a look at it. Uh-oh, I gotta refresh. So when you go to davealger.info, you're greeted with this like terminal-looking thing, and something's going on. And if you read all of these comments, it kind of explains what's happening. And it's a robot. I'm not tooting my own horn. This robot is doing it for me. It's saying, look, I'm just putting this in a style tag, and as it changes the CSS over here, things are appearing and things are changing and moving around. And this is remarkable because most resumes don't literally write themselves. And that's one of my favorite things is telling someone, oh yeah, my resume, it literally writes itself. Oh, you don't know what the word literally means. And then they go, oh, well, yeah, it literally does. Okay. I guess he does know what that means. Anyway, resume, this is the first kind of resume, a remarkable resume. And we're going to talk more about the other kind of resume because that's the one that's going to get you to be one of those 5 of the 250. But the cool thing about online resume, aside from the fact that it can do all of this stuff, is it doesn't have to be static. The other kind of resume is really boring, and it needs to be boring. You need to not have tables of data, and it needs to not be nicely formatted and easy to read. Actually, it has to just be text and space. Because every Unicode character you put in there, everything in there could mess up with the applicant tracking systems. And so the big companies have to use that. When I was at Microsoft, I was part of the hiring process for the test team, and we would get like 1,000 a day, 1,000 resumes a day. Even, it would take so many people to look at all of those and weed through them. So I know it's kind of like, well, that's dumb. So you mean, what do? I just stick my resume out there, and my only shot is hope that a computer gives me to a human? Yeah, that's your only shot. Because what else? A company has really, the size of Microsoft doesn't have a choice. But the good thing is we're going to talk, since we've already looked at a remarkable example, or we'll compare the remarkable examples, which can kind of draw interest and help people remember your name and stand out. There's recognizable. And a recognizable resume will get through these applicant tracking systems. How many people have experienced, oh, I have an awesome resume, I'm going to upload it, and then it's like 5,000 form fields. Type everything on your resume again in all these text boxes, and it's like, oh my God, I don't want the job that bad. I'm out. Like you know this because it's like, what is going on here? I just gave you my resume. Can't you read it? I really wish I could remember the company. There was one company that uploaded the resume and said, we'll look it over and get back with you. And that was it. That was the whole application process. And I was like, oh, yes. Because it validated to me that it's not going through some computer. It was a smaller company. I actually think it was either Koali or Canopy. But one of those companies, they just take your resume and that's it. And that was a great application process. So good job, whoever's doing that. But that said, the bigger companies, they have no choice but to weed out resumes because they get so many a day. So here's a few other remarkable resumes I came across. I like this one because it really stands out with color. But if you tried to upload that to an applicant tracking system, it just would get thrown out. Because although a human sees it, it's like, oh, cool, full of vitamin C, creativity. It stands out and it's memorable, has a name really big up top. That's the purpose of a resume, is get that out. This one is interesting because it's like, whoa, is that a resume? Want more design nerd? That's not even a word, but I get what they're going for. Like, I'm a nerd. Just fill out this form and mail it to me, I guess, and I will work for you. And that one's kind of scary. He was safely locked up, but now he's out. And some of them, this one, even you can go to a website and play a video game to go find all the skills. It can be really creative. So the remarkable resumes are cool, and they serve a purpose. But it's probably more likely that everyone here has a job. In fact, probably all your companies paid you to be here. And if you don't have a job, getting past the ATS, the applicant tracking system, will help you get way more interviews. And that's the whole point of this talk, is to get more interviews. The first section up top, of course, is the top 5 Pokemon. Your top 5 favorite Pokemon has to be up top. And if it's not Mewtwo is number one, then, oh wait, that's not right. Applicant tracking systems don't care about Pokemon. They care about what your name is and how to contact you. I don't even put my address anymore. I guess you can put your city and state, if that helps. But basically a phone number and an email, or even just a LinkedIn, a link to your LinkedIn profile with that info. So that's the most important information, obviously, because if you left that off, then it's like, oh, I really want this person. I don't know what to do, though. The next section is interesting because it looks like that section that people complain about. Oh, this resume is just full of like words that are trying to get past the bot or whatever. But that's not what this is. This is sort of like an objective summary section, but it has to be written in a certain way where your title, whatever you consider yourself, like I consider myself a senior UX developer, that has to be up top, followed by at least three of your top skills. Like, so this customer success manager is good with clients and customer relationships and managing all of this, okay? And then you give your little summary, your objective summary up. And it needs to tell, this will be different for every single company you apply for. And it will be true, it has to be true, okay? You can't just copy the job description and then paste it in your resume. You can't do that unless it's true. But I had an experience where I was trying to get a job at Adobe because after having quite a bit of developer experience, Adobe was like my dream. All the creativity and the art, and I could go back to being a kid. I could make everything awesome, and I just got to get a job at Adobe. I applied 8 times and got 0 phone calls. But I didn't know this stuff, and I didn't do this stuff. So for every job, it can even come down to the point where it's like they need some like merge request or a communicator or GitLab, GitHub, like they're the same thing, but if you don't type what they type in their job description as your skills, then that's one more point against you. And so use their exact words out of their thing, as long as they're true, of course. And you will at least get a phone call. Because I know, like, especially the last one, this is why I don't know if I'll ever have the nerve to apply again, because the 8th time I applied at Adobe, like, I couldn't have written, like, it just described my whole life. I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly me. And I didn't get a phone call, so I was like, well, then what am I going to do? And I mean, sometimes jobs are pretty close, but like this one was perfect. And so, I mean, it's okay. It's not like, it's not a sad sob story or anything like that. But now that I know these skills, maybe a year or 2 from now I'll be presenting from Adobe. The next part is the career highlights, and this is not soft skills. So soft skills are things like hard work or dedicate. Do not do that. Like, those are actually, some applicant tracking systems will see hard worker and throw your resume out. Because the laziest person in the world could say, I'm a hard worker. It doesn't mean anything. What means something is decreased cost or increased performance by 30%, or increased code coverage in our tests, from 40% lines executed to 80% lines executed. Those things can be measured, and they will be verified. Everything on your resume will be verified. So make sure you get your dates exactly right, like your start and end dates and all that stuff. If you have to, hopefully you've been tracking all along, because it might be hard to go way back and find the exact month. But if you have the month and year for start and month and year for end on every job. That's important because if you don't tell the truth, then you'll get screened out from people who do nothing but verify these data. And then after that, every resume should have core competencies that are readable by a human, and they, again, have to be true, but they are copied directly out of what the company needs. Because the applicant tracking system is going to just say, oh, wow, and it's going to be checking all these boxes left and right, and it's going to be just on fire, because this is where you write the competencies, the actual things like market analysis, sales growth, exactly as it's listed in the job description. And, of course, work experience. There are some other sections that, like education and things like that, that you may or may not include. The general rule is if your GPA was below 3, then just leave it off. Don't put it on. Or you can just say your degree and your college and just don't put your GPA. If your GPA is above a 3, 3.2, whatever, you can put it on. I don't know why. Maybe the applicant tracking systems grade you based on your GPA. I don't know. But that's it. If you follow those steps, you will get more interviews. And since we started with those dismal 2 data points, I want to end with a couple of good data points. And this was from 2021, a survey on LinkedIn. 90% of recruiters think that candidates are in control right now. So it would be a good time to just try some of this and see what you could get, like for an offer or for an interview somewhere else. I used to try an interview once every year just to not get stuck, if that makes sense, and that was good. It's not bad to interview. In fact, the best time to interview is not when you're stressed about, oh my gosh, I don't have insurance for my kids, I can't eat, when you're in that kind of mindset, you're likely to make choices that are going to just bind you, make you less free. So, and the last one is, from the candidate side of the interview, 88% said my recent last interview experience was positive. So that's really good. You will get more interviews. Hopefully they will be positive, because right now everybody wants you to work for them. And any questions? And here's how you get, these slides will be posted, and then you can contact me either on LinkedIn. A lot of people contact me on LinkedIn, or on Twitter. You can just post whatever. Cool. Well, I can throw some more stats out there if you want. We do have some more time, and I'm glad that it went quick, because my friend Daniel Sellers is over there talking about how to not paint yourself in a corner. So when you do land that dream job, you want to architect your stuff so it's flexible. But here's an interesting one. Most people on average, and this is from LinkedIn as well, 13.5. So 13 and a half times on average they change jobs. So maybe it's changing, like as more people come in and jump year to year. I don't know. It's not bad to jump jobs a lot. It used to be like this stigma. If you have like 3 or more job places, then how can we trust you? It's not like that at all now. So don't be afraid to go look. Don't be afraid to interview. And that's how you get more interviews. Good luck, everyone. I will go back to the beginning, because when we were waiting for people to show up, there was this first slide that everyone was able to draw. Oh, weird. So this is another one of those experiments. davealger.info, my resume / experiment. And since we can do more experiments, I'm going to try another one. Oh, was there a question back here? I'm sorry.
No worries. So I just wanted to know what is the number of pages of resume is recommended, because as and when you have more experience, your resume tends to have more number of pages, right? Because you have to mention your work experience. However, I would like to ask you, for how many years you have to mention? What is the good number of years that you can mention on the resume? Do you have to mention all 13 years, for example, or 10 years, last 10 years, and how many number of pages? Or just the highlights as and when you have new experiences?
That's a great question. I list my entire history on LinkedIn. So you can go way back on LinkedIn and get, I can tell you the data. I can't tell you if it's true or not, but on average, it's 2 pages. And that was from LinkedIn when they looked across all, submitted the second kind of resume, the readable one. So this, when, it's not hooked up. When Daft Punk broke my heart, because, what if I just make this weird site? This is another experiment, but it's tied to my resume, and it's remarkable enough. It got, I don't know, not a ton, a couple hundred shares. I can type on the keyboard. You hear that? Anyway, so yeah, don't be afraid to play, don't be afraid to be remarkable. And as long as you understand that when you do apply online in one of those forms, you use the second kind of resume and have your fun stuff out there. But thanks for coming. It's good.